We're here at Logan Airport, about to hop on a little over 2 hours of a plane ride. With my sister moving back from Chicago, we finally have an excuse to travel again. I haven't made one of these in almost 5 years, and since then a lot has happened and a lot has changed. But traveling is as exciting as ever, and I can't wait to get back into making these videos. Since it's been a while, I didn't think to film quite everything, but here I'm going to tell the best story I can with what I got. After doing some work and playing some games on my phone, seeing Lake Michigan out the window tells us that we're about to land. The rough thing about this flight is that they assign seats randomly, and I happen to be in the middle, but when it comes to the view, it's definitely better than nothing. Check out the Chicago skyline. After we finally land in Chicago, we take an Uber downtown. This is our third time in Chicago, but these skyline views are always exciting, especially in a city this big. As we make our way over to the apartment, we've got to do something we didn't do last time. We're going up to the rooftop during the day, and we're checking out this amazing view of Navy Pier. After going to a reception at the Field Museum where I didn't really film anything, since most of the content was closed, we walk out to see some incredible sunset colors, with the impressive backdrop of Chicago's skyline. The next morning, we're up as early as 5, hoping to catch a sunrise at Navy Pier. If you know me, it's pretty clear that I'm not built to wake up early, especially before 7, so it kinda makes sense that I haven't done this very often. But there's a different perspective that comes with being up this early, with a lot fewer people around, which gives you room to appreciate the surroundings as they are. After a lot of colors to get hyped about, the sun's finally here. Having made sure we didn't miss this part with the sky being lit up with all kinds of color, we're ready to make our way up to the pier itself so that we get an unobstructed view of the lake. While crossing this bridge, we stop to take in yet another view. As the sun moves up in the sky, we see, thanks to our team's bird ID professionals, this red-winged blackbird on the railing. It was actually the fourth one we saw, but the other ones flew away before I could take a photo. And we're here at the pier, where it's still pretty quiet and it's just us in the morning air. It's pretty interesting to see this usually busy place with nobody there, and to use our imagination to picture it at different times of day. As we see the sun making even more progress, we're about ready to turn around and head back. At Navy Pier, we saw a lot of spiderwebs, but no spiders, so I'd imagine the birds have been eating well. Clearly they've woken up by now. The next 2 days are dedicated to a quick road trip. The plan is to make our way across the Mississippi River to see Iowa for the first time, and do some cool stuff in the area. The drive gets a lot better as we get farther from the urban area around Chicago. My first impression as I was planning this trip was that it would just be miles of the same kind of fields, but since it's so different from where I live, I couldn't help but look out the window at them. The views definitely get more interesting as we continue, and this will become a trend throughout this trip. It had been a year since we hit the road, and this brings back the feeling of seeing new places. Our first stop is Freeport, Illinois, and while I forgot the details, I recognized this place in the map from APUSH last year, and I figured it'd be cool to say I took a look in real life. We're here to stretch our legs at a park dedicated to the Lincoln Douglas debates. There are statues here to mark the occasion, and the signs were surprisingly informative about the historical context and issues like media bias at the time. This place was even recognized by Theodore Roosevelt. After that quick break, we're back on the road. As we continue, looking at the window becomes even more interesting. Now the view is super different from how it was a few hours before. It's becoming a lot more hilly and a lot more open. Even though I expected this part of the drive to just be the same thing over and over, sometimes we focused on close things worth pointing out, and other times the landscape opened up for us to take in everything you could see at once. As we approach this overlook, we decide to stop and look around. The Midwest might have a reputation for being homogeneous, but the fact that this overlook even exists just shows how the point of traveling is to go and see these things for yourself. And these moments of liking something more than you expect, these make the memories worth sharing. Standing here and feeling the gentle wind and the tall grass, with not many people around, it almost makes us forget we were just on the road for 2 hours. After passing by Galena, Illinois, which we'll visit tomorrow, we're on the bridge across the Mississippi River to head into Iowa. Crossing this bridge means we get to add one more state to our list. Across the river is the city of Dubuque, Iowa. Dubuque was actually around for a really long time, and it shows in the style of the buildings. We don't have that much time left in the day, so our plan is to just go to what's called the Fenelon Street Elevator and get a view from above. It's pretty much a mechanical railcar that we take from up here down to the streets below, and on the way we can see the city. So we're just gonna take a quick look from above and then hop on the railcar. So how this works is pretty cool. We just take this down and walk around, and ring a bell once we're ready to come back up. It's a Sunday, so not that busy, but general impression is that it would be pretty interesting if we had more time. After a quick walk around, we're heading back up. After the sun sets and we get dinner at a place called Catfish Charlie's, we're about ready to call it a day. It's our last full day of this trip and we're gonna make it count. Our first stop today is an area called Mines of Spain, so we need to get out of Dubuque and head over to the less populated surroundings. Pretty soon, we're back in the fields. Something we see a lot in these fields is just one of these trees growing on its own. Before long, the scene changes again, and it turns from these fields into a more forested area. That means we're here at Mines of Spain. The specific place we're going to is called Horseshoe Bluff, and there's a bit of a hike to get there. Unfortunately, there was an insane amount of bugs along this hike. It was like walking through an entire film of them. I had to cover my face with my shirt to avoid breathing them in, but a bunch of them still got into my ear. So Horseshoe Bluff is a pretty cool looking cliff. Now I thought the entire state of Iowa was just flat, so it was pretty exciting to see this for myself. Apparently, a lot of these rocks in the area are made of galena, which is kind of foreshadowing for where we're going next. There were simply too many bugs here to do the other things I had planned, so we decided to move on. After a pretty short time here, we're about to leave Dubuque and head back across the river toward our next destination, Galena, Illinois. Now we'd been pretty excited to check out Galena. In fact, it was pretty much the main point of this entire day trip. It's like an entire town of shops to check out, and we could spend the whole day here. The first place we checked out is called the Galena Canning Company, and it might be the biggest variety of dips and jams and sauces that I've ever seen in one place. As if this wasn't impressive enough, next door they had an entire store dedicated to hot sauce. These two stores completely blew my mind, so of course we had to get some to take home. The other shop we're going to check out is called Galena Garlic. Here there's samples of all kinds of vinegar and olive oil. Funny story, when going through airport security the next day, I forgot to take these glass bottles out of my bag, so I had to go through twice. Having gotten a taste of Galena, literally, we're on our way back towards Chicago. But we're going to take a detour and spend some time at Starved Rock State Park. Now there's a lot of hiking involved, but it'll be worth it for some pretty nice views of the Illinois River. Our first stop is called Lover's Leap, and it's pretty much right on top of this huge dam. And from the dam, we can see a crazy number of pelicans. Here's another view of the dam from the next overlook. Overlook after overlook, we get new perspectives of this dam. If you look closely, you also see the fish swimming around in the river. And also this turtle. As we continue, the highlight of the hike is this huge waterfall. At least it would be a huge waterfall if it weren't so dry. On the way back, there was this tree growing through the path. You should always try to be this kind of tree in life. And we're back in Chicago for real. We're gonna end off our trip by having dinner at a place called Indienne. Instead of taking an Uber, we're just gonna walk, so that we also get to look at some of the city's architecture. And with that, this trip has come to an end as we fly back to Boston the next day. Overall, I'm super happy to get back into making these videos, and I can't wait to bring out even cooler ones this summer. Hope you enjoyed watching.